Galactic terror ends when humans deploy one warship. The galaxy had known peace for a long time, but it was a fragile peace.
Everywhere whispers spread about a force that no one could stop. They called it the Shadows. Entire star systems disappeared, and no one knew exactly why. The Shadows were not like normal enemies.
They were fast, deadly, and without mercy. Every time a fleet tried to fight them, it vanished without a trace.
The news of the last destroyed colony reached Earth slowly, but the horror in the reports was clear. Planets burned. Cities fell. People were gone. Only silence remained. On the distant human colony of Alden Prime, life had been quiet until now. The planet was small, with blue oceans and forests stretching for thousands of miles. Its cities were neat, and people lived simple lives. Children went to school. Farmers worked on the land, and traders moved between colonies. None of them expected war to reach their world. Claire Morgan was sitting in the communications room of the colony's space station when the alarms began to sound. She had been working late, reviewing old transmissions. The monitors flickered with strange signals, broken and distorted. At first, she thought it was just interference from the solar storms in the system. But as she focused, she realized the signals were not random. Someone, somewhere, was sending a message. It was weak, full of static, but it had words. Help!
Shadows destroyed! No one left. Claire's hand shook as she read the words.
She had studied alien languages and signals for years. This was real. This was a warning. She immediately sent the message to the Colony Council. The Council was a small group of leaders, men and women, who managed the planet. They had never seen a situation like this. Some of them laughed nervously. "It must be a prank," said one of them. "No single enemy could destroy entire fleets like that. We are far from the main worlds. We are safe." Claire shook her head. "It is not a prank. I have seen the patterns of destruction. This enemy moves fast and kills without warning. If we do not warn Earth, more colonies will fall. Our world may be next." The council fell silent. They had always thought of humans as safe here, far from the dangerous sectors of the galaxy. But now the threat was coming closer. Meanwhile, the Shadows were moving. Their fleets were enormous, dark shapes that could hide among stars. They had sensors that could detect the smallest signs of life, and they were coming toward the human colonies. They did not care about alliances or treaties. They did not ask questions. They only destroyed. Back on Alden Prime, Claire worked through the night. She tried to send clearer messages to Earth, but the signals were weak. The Shadow's presence caused interference. Every time she sent a warning, it barely made it through. She felt alone. No one else understood the urgency. A ship finally arrived from Earth, carrying Captain Jack Harper. He was tall, with short brown hair and sharp green eyes. He had been trained for combat, exploration, and intelligence missions. He did not like to panic. He believed that humans could solve any problem if they acted smart and together. Jack looked at the Colony Council and then at Claire. "I received your message," he said. "I've read the reports. The Shadows are real, and they are advancing faster than anyone expected. How many ships do you have for defense?" The council members hesitated. "We have a few patrol ships," said one. "But they are small. They could not fight a fleet this large." Jack nodded. "Then we have to think differently. We cannot fight them with numbers. We have to fight them with strategy, with speed, and with something they do not expect." Claire looked at him with hope. "Do you think Earth can help us? The fleets on Earth are strong, but the Shadows are stronger." Jack shook his head. "Earth cannot send the main fleet quickly enough. The fastest ships would still arrive after the Shadows reach Alden Prime. We have to act now." The council grew uneasy. They were used to following Earth's instructions. Now, they were told to rely on a single small team. Jack, Claire, and a handful of engineers and pilots would have to face the unknown threat alone, at least at first. The next day, Claire guided Jack to the communications center. She showed him the fragmented signals. Each message was from different worlds that had fallen. The aliens spoke of fear, of helplessness, and of sudden death. Jack read them silently. His expression did not change, but inside he felt the weight of the galaxy's eyes upon him.
"We cannot save everyone,"
he said finally.
"But we can stop the shadows from reaching the human colonies. If we fail, more systems will burn. If we succeed, we can change how the galaxy sees humans."
Claire nodded.
"I understand. But how? One ship against an entire fleet?"
Jack smiled faintly.
"It is not just one ship. It is humans. They never give up. We will do things they do not expect. We will be clever, and we will fight smart. That is how humans win when others think they cannot."
That night, the colony was quiet. Families went to sleep unaware of the danger moving through space above them.
In the control room, Claire and Jack studied maps of the galaxy. They plotted possible routes of the shadows, predicted their speed, and considered the weak points in their attack patterns. They found that the shadows relied on brute force. They expected obedience from their victims. They never anticipated courage or strategy. Jack turned to Claire. "This is where we make the difference. Humans are not like the others. We adapt, we learn. We fight even when the odds are against us. That is our advantage. One human ship can make a difference if we act correctly." The engineers began their work. Among them was Emma Brooks, a young engineer with short black hair and bright eyes.
She had helped build ships for decades. Now she had to prepare a vessel unlike any other.
It would be small, fast, and armed with weapons the shadows had never seen. It was not about power.
It was about precision. Emma worked day and night, checking engines, calibrating weapons, and running simulations. Jack joined her sometimes, giving advice and making sure the ship could survive the unknown. Claire monitored the signals, updating the team on the shadows' movements. Every day, the enemy came closer. Then, one morning, a distress call came from a nearby colony. The shadows had arrived, the planet was burning, and the citizens were fleeing. The communication feed showed ships exploding in orbit, cities disappearing into fire. Claire's hand shook as she watched. Jack placed a hand on her shoulder.
"We cannot save them all," he said. "But we can stop this from spreading. We can give the rest of the galaxy a chance. That is enough." The Council gave permission for the mission.
Jack and his crew would take the new ship, called the Defender, and intercept the shadows. It was a dangerous mission, but no one else could do it. Jack looked at Claire and Emma.
"This is our chance to prove humans are not weak. We can face the terror, even if it is alone." As the sun rose over Alden Prime, the Defender prepared for launch.
People watched from below, not understanding what was about to happen. They could see one small ship against an endless night sky.
It seemed hopeless, but hope was a human quality, one the shadows did not understand.
Jack entered the cockpit. He felt the weight of the galaxy, the fear of many worlds, and the hope of humanity. Claire's fingers hovered over the communications console. Emma adjusted the weapon systems one last time. All were ready, even if they did not know what would happen. The Defender launched. Its engines burned bright, cutting through space like a single star of courage.
Below, the people of Alden Prime stared and hoped. Above, the shadows moved, unaware that one human ship had decided to fight.
The first battle was not yet begun, but the galaxy's fear had already changed. Where once only terror existed, now there was a glimmer of defiance.
Humans were coming, and they would not back down. Even one ship could make a difference,
Claire whispered to herself, watching the Defender disappear into the stars.
This is our chance. We cannot fail. Not now. Not ever. And in that silence, the galaxy waited.
Earth had received the warning from Alden Prime. The messages were brief, fragmented, and urgent, but clear enough to show that the shadows were advancing faster than anyone had thought.
At the Earth Space Command in the capital, the room was full of people in uniform. Screens lined the walls showing star charts, incoming signals, and alerts from distant colonies. Some of the commanders shook their heads, unable to believe that one enemy could destroy so many worlds. Others stared silently, already calculating the odds of survival. Captain Jack Harper stood among them, listening. He had just returned from Alden Prime and was giving his report. "The shadows are not attacking randomly. They are moving in patterns. They strike quickly, destroy everything, and move on. Traditional fleets will not stop them. We need a different approach." A senior commander, an older man named Colonel Henry Ford, frowned. "You want to fight them with one ship? One vessel? Are you serious?" "That is suicide." Jack met his gaze steadily. "It is not about the size of the fleet, Colonel. It is about the way we fight. Speed, intelligence, and unexpected tactics can win where numbers fail. We cannot wait for the full fleet. If we do, hundreds of colonies will fall before reinforcements arrive." The room grew tense. Many were afraid, some angry. They had trained for wars, not this kind of threat. Wars were usually predictable. Enemies had rules, weaknesses, patterns humans could exploit. The shadows had no rules. They had no mercy. They had no hesitation. An engineer, Emma Brooks, stepped forward. She had come with Jack from Alden Prime. "The ship is ready," she said. "It is small, yes, but powerful. It has weapons that can strike precisely. It can maneuver in ways no large fleet can. One ship is enough if used correctly." Colonel Ford shook his head. "Even if your ship is advanced, it will not survive against an entire fleet. We have satellites, surveillance, and weapons platforms." None of them survived the last engagement. Why should this one? Jack's voice was calm, but firm. "Because it will do what no one expects. The shadows anticipate fear, slow reactions, and predictable tactics. This ship is designed to act differently. It will move fast, strike precisely, and use the enemy's strength against them. We cannot fight them like others. We must fight like humans." Claire Morgan, still at the command center, looked at the maps on the screen. "I have studied the paths the shadows have taken. They are efficient, but they assume no one will stand alone against them. If they see one ship, they might underestimate it at first. That is our chance." The Council of Earth's leaders had gathered in the room as well. They were politicians and scientists, men and women, who usually argued over budgets and policies, not life and death. They listened to Jack and Claire, trying to understand why a single ship could matter. Some nodded slowly, beginning to see the strategy. Others still looked doubtful. Finally, the council chair, a woman named Laura Bennett, spoke. "Captain Harper, if this fails, humanity will not survive. Hundreds of colonies could be destroyed before reinforcements arrive." "Do you really believe one ship can do this?" Jack straightened. "I do. Not because of the ship alone, but because of the crew, the plan, and the human spirit. We will fight smart. We will fight together. And if humans can survive when no one expects it, we will show the shadows that we cannot be defeated so easily." After long discussion, the decision was made. Jack and his team would take the experimental ship called the Defender and intercept the shadows before they reached the human colonies. It was risky, almost reckless, but it was humanity's only chance. The next days were filled with preparation. Engineers checked every system of the Defender. Emma Brooks worked tirelessly on the weapons, making sure each laser cannon, missile launcher, and defensive shield would function perfectly. Every detail mattered. A single malfunction could end the mission before it began. Jack oversaw the training of the crew. Pilots practiced maneuvers that would allow the ship to dodge attacks faster than the enemy could aim. Technicians ran simulations, testing every scenario they could imagine. Even Claire joined, helping with communications and strategy, analyzing the enemy's previous attacks to find weaknesses. Despite the urgency, the human team found moments to connect. Jack would speak quietly with each crew member, reminding them that fear was natural,
but courage was stronger.
Emma joked with the pilots about their maneuvers, bringing brief laughter into tense days.
Claire worked long hours but made sure the team knew she believed in them. Finally, the ship was ready. The Defender was sleek, fast, and smaller than most warships, but it carried weapons that could destroy much larger vessels. Its shields were adaptive, able to react to attacks and change form to protect the ship.
Its engines could accelerate quickly, allowing sudden jumps across short distances in space, a move that could surprise the Shadows. Jack gathered the crew for one last briefing.
"We are not just fighting for ourselves," he said. "We are fighting for every human colony out there.
We are fighting for the people who cannot fight. We are the shield that will give them hope. Remember this. We are not weak. We are human. We survive when others think we cannot."
The crew nodded. Each one knew the risks. Each one felt fear, but they also felt something stronger: determination. They were humans, and humans never gave up. As the launch approached, Earth watched silently. The Defender would go alone, facing an enemy that had destroyed fleets before. Some people prayed.
Others prepared for the worst. But everyone understood that humanity had taken a step forward that no one else had expected. One ship, one crew, one chance. Claire monitored the signals again. "The Shadows are moving," she said. "They are faster than predicted. If we delay any longer, we will not reach them in time."
Jack nodded. "Then it is time." He turned to Emma and the pilots.
"Take your stations. Let's show the galaxy what humans can do." The engines of the Defender roared to life. Lights flashed across the ship as systems activated.
Weapons hummed. Shields shimmered faintly. The crew felt the vibration beneath their feet as the ship lifted off the platform. Outside, Earth's people watched a single ship disappear into space, tiny against the vast darkness, but full of determination. The Defender moved through the stars, following the path the Shadows had taken. Jack studied the maps on the screen.
"We need to strike before they reach the colonies. We cannot allow them to destroy more worlds."
Watch every sensor, predict their moves.
React faster than they expect. Emma checked the weapons again. "Everything is ready. If we survive the first attack, we can fight smart. We have the advantage if we act correctly." Hours passed as the ship traveled through space. Communications from distant colonies were brief, often cut off.
The crew focused on the task ahead. They trained, studied, and planned.
Every decision mattered. Every second could mean life or death.
Finally, sensors detected movement ahead. Shadows.
Their ships were larger than the human team had imagined. Dark, angular, and fast, they moved in formation.
Jack leaned forward, eyes sharp.
"This is it. Remember your training. Stick to the plan. We fight together. We fight smart. Humans never give up."
The crew felt a mixture of fear and excitement. They were about to face an enemy that never met humans on equal terms, but they were ready. The Defender surged forward, engines blazing, moving toward the first shadow ship. The crew braced for impact.
The first test of courage, skill, and human determination was about to begin. In that quiet moment, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath.
Humans were coming. They were small, but they were brave. They had one chance to change the tide of terror that had haunted the stars for so long. Jack whispered almost to himself. "We may be one ship, but we carry the hope of all humanity."
That is more powerful than any weapon.
And with that, the Defender faced the unknown, ready to show that even in the darkest corners of the galaxy, humans would never back down. The Defender moved through the empty darkness of space, its engines humming steadily. Jack Harper sat in the cockpit, eyes scanning the sensors. Ahead, faint blips marked the Shadow's fleet. Thousands of ships, dark and sharp, moved in formation. Their shapes were unfamiliar, angular, and alien. They had no flags, no colors, no insignia.
Only one purpose: destruction.
"This is it," he said quietly. Stay alert. Every move counts. We are small, but we are fast. We have to use that advantage. The crew nodded. Emma Brooks monitored the weapon systems.
Every cannon, missile launcher, and shield was ready. Pilots gripped their stations, prepared to react to anything.
Claire Morgan watched the communications and sensors, trying to predict the Shadow's next move. The first Shadow ships appeared on the Defender's main screen.
They were enormous, much larger than the human vessel and bristling with weapons. Sensors showed energy readings far higher than any human ship could produce.
Jack swallowed. One mistake, 1 second too slow, and the Defender could be destroyed instantly.
Jack, Claire said, pointing at the screen. They are moving toward the colony behind them.
If they reach it, there will be nothing left. Jack nodded. Then we hit them now. Not with force, but with speed. We need to confuse them. Make them think we are weaker than we are. The first Shadow ship fired.
A beam of energy streaked across space, faster than any human projectile. The Defender's shields flared, absorbing the hit. Sensors shook as the energy passed through, but the ship held. Jack maneuvered quickly, twisting the Defender out of line. The crew felt the tension. This was the first real test. The Shadows were not cautious. They were brutal, striking fast and without warning. The Defender moved unpredictably, weaving between attacks. Pilots followed Jack's lead, performing maneuvers they had only practiced in simulations. Emma pressed buttons rapidly, launching missiles aimed at the weaker sections of the enemy ships. "Targeting engines!" she shouted. Explosions lit the dark space as the missile struck. Several Shadow ships flinched, their movements disrupted. For the first time, the enemy seemed surprised. Jack smiled faintly.
Good. Keep going.
We are teaching them to fear. The Shadows regrouped quickly.
They fired again, this time in patterns that seemed almost random. But Claire noticed a weakness.
Jack, their fire is stronger in the front rows. The back ships are slower and less coordinated.
We can use that, Jack nodded. Then we split their attention.
Pilots, take the left flank. Emma, target the rear ships. Let's show them humans are not predictable.
The Defender twisted and darted, splitting the Shadow's attention. Missiles flew, cannons fired, and shields held against deadly beams. One by one, the weaker Shadow ships began to falter. Explosions lit the void of space, brief but blinding. Even the crew could feel the shift. They were small, but they were making a difference. Fear was not on their side. It was theirs alone, yet it made them sharper, faster, smarter. Suddenly, a massive Shadow ship moved directly toward the Defender. Its size dwarfed the human vessel.
Energy readings spiked. This was the enemy's strongest ship. It fired a huge beam. The Defender's shields flared, but the impact sent a shudder through the ship.
Jack gritted his teeth.
Evasive maneuvers. Full speed. Emma, target its weak points. We are not going down without a fight. The crew followed orders perfectly. The Defender twisted, dodged, and launched a series of missiles that struck precisely at the Shadow ship's engines.
Explosions rocked the massive vessel. Its attacks faltered, and it began to drift. For the first time, a Shadow ship showed damage. Claire gasped.
Jack, they didn't expect this. They are confused.
Jack nodded. Good. Confusion is our ally.
Humans are small, but smart. They think we are weak.
Let's keep it that way. The battle continued.
The Shadows unleashed wave after wave of attacks, but the Defender adapted. Shields changed, weapons fired in new patterns, and maneuvers became unpredictable. Pilots worked with perfect timing, weaving between beams and missiles. Every hit from the human ship caused panic among the Shadows. Meanwhile, the human team communicated constantly. Claire analyzed enemy patterns. They repeat sequences every 4 attacks, she said.
We can predict their next move. Use it.
Jack nodded.
Then we strike in the gaps. We hit them where they are weakest, then move before they react.
The Shadows began to change their strategy.
realizing this one ship was not like the others. Beams fired randomly, missiles scattered, and ships moved in chaotic patterns. The defender twisted and turned, striking each time they showed weakness. Slowly, the enemy fleet began to fall apart. Explosions lit the void as ships collided or were destroyed. Jack saw the bigger picture. This is it. Focus on the leaders. Take out the largest ships first. The others will panic. Emma launched a coordinated missile strike at the largest shadow ship remaining. The missiles struck the engines and weapons systems simultaneously. Sparks and fire exploded across its hull. Smaller shadow ships nearby hesitated, confused and disoriented. "Jack," Claire said, excitement in her voice. "They are retreating!"
The smaller ships are pulling back from the front line.
Jack's eyes narrowed. Good.
Don't let them regroup. We press the advantage. Pilots, full speed. Weapons, ready. Let's finish this. The defender surged forward.
Energy beams, missiles, and cannons fired in perfect coordination. Shadow ships exploded one by one. The remaining fleet tried to flee, but the defenders' speed and precision kept them under pressure. Even in the darkness of space, the explosions lit up like stars. The Shadows had never faced an enemy like this. One small ship, moving faster and thinking smarter, was destroying them faster than they could react. Fear was spreading among the enemy ranks. Finally, the largest shadow ship, the leader of the fleet, turned to escape.
Jack saw the opportunity.
Emma, fire the ion cannon. Aim at its engines. Pilots, block its escape route.
The ion cannon glowed brightly, then fired a massive beam that struck the enemy ship's engines. Sparks and energy erupted. The ship drifted, powerless, as the smaller shadow vessels scattered in panic.
Claire breathed heavily. Jack, they've never lost like this before.
"They're retreating completely," Jack exhaled. "Then let them go. They will spread the news of humans who fight differently."
That is more important than killing them all. They need to know fear.
The defender moved through the debris field. Smoke and energy sparks floated across the sensors.
The Shadow Fleet was broken, humiliated, and fleeing in all directions. The human crew had won.
One small ship had faced an entire fleet and survived.
Jack allowed himself a brief smile.
Good work, everyone. Humanity has shown its strength. Not because of size, but because of courage, intelligence, and determination.
Emma laughed softly.
I can't believe it.
We actually did it. One ship, one small human ship against all that.
Claire shook her head in amazement. The galaxy will never see humans the same way again. They will remember this.
Jack nodded. Exactly. We have made our mark.
One ship, one crew, and we have changed the balance. The Shadows will think twice before attacking humans again.
The defender continued through space, sensors scanning for any remaining threats. They found a few small ships trying to regroup, but none dared approach.
Humanity had won the first real battle against the Shadows. As the crew settled, Jack looked at the stars. We have shown what humans can do when no one expects it. We fight smart, we fight together, and we never give up.
This is just the beginning, Claire smiled.
The colonies we saved, they will rebuild, and they will remember that humans are not weak. They are brave, clever, and relentless, Emma added. And we only had one ship to do it. Imagine what could happen if Earth decides to show more of its strength. Jack shook his head. For now, one ship is enough. We have sent a message across the galaxy. Humans are not to be underestimated. That is what matters. The defender moved forward, leaving the destroyed fleet behind.
Silence returned to space, broken only by the hum of its engines. The stars shone brightly as if acknowledging the courage of the small human ship. For the first time, humanity had faced a threat that seemed impossible and survived. Not with hundreds of ships, not with overwhelming power, but with skill, courage, and determination.
The Shadows would remember this.
And so would the galaxy. Jack Harper sat back in his chair. We did it. One ship, one crew, and the galaxy will never forget us.
Claire looked at him and nodded. This is the start of something bigger.
Humanity has changed the story of the galaxy. From now on, no one will ignore us.
Emma grinned.
And to think, it all started with a single small ship. Imagine what we can do next.
The Defender continued its journey, a small human ship that had faced terror and won. The first battle was over, but the war was far from finished.
Humanity had sent a message that no one could ignore. One ship had stood alone, and it had made the galaxy see that humans were not to be taken lightly.
The silence after the battle felt strange. Space was usually calm, but now it felt heavy, like it was watching the Defender closely.
Broken pieces of shadow ships floated slowly, glowing faintly as their power faded. Jack Harper kept his hands steady on the controls while the crew checked their stations.
Everyone was tired, but no one relaxed. They all knew this was not the end.
Claire Morgan studied the sensor screen carefully. Most of the shadow ships are gone, she said.
But some escaped. They are sending signals.
Long-range signals,
Jack nodded.
They are calling for help, or warning others.
Emma Brooks leaned back in her chair for a moment, then straightened again. That means more are coming. Bigger fleets.
Stronger ships. Jack looked at the stars ahead.
Yes, and now they know humans will fight back.
The Defender moved slowly through the debris field.
Its shields were scratched, and several systems needed repair, but the ship was still strong. Emma and the engineers moved through the ship, fixing damaged circuits and recalibrating weapons.
Every system was adjusted to be better than before. Humans learned fast, especially under pressure.
Back on Earth, the battle data arrived in fragments at first. Signals were weak, but the message was clear.
One human ship had faced the shadows and survived. When the full data arrived, silence filled the command room. Officers stared at the screens, replaying the battle again and again. Colonel Henry Ford finally spoke.
This should not be possible. Laura Bennett stood slowly. But it happened. Humans did what no one else could. The mood on Earth changed.
Fear was still there, but something new joined it. Pride.
Determination. Hope.
More messages came in from alien worlds. Some were shocked. Some were confused. Some were afraid. A few asked questions they had never dared to ask before.
Who were these humans? Why did one ship fight when entire fleets failed? The Defender did not return to Earth. Jack knew better. If we go home now, he said, the shadows will regroup. We need to stay in front of them.
Claire nodded. I am tracking their retreat paths.
They are falling back toward their core territory.
Emma looked up.
That is dangerous space.
No one has ever gone there and returned. Jack smiled slightly. Then we will be the first. The Defender followed the shadows, staying just outside their detection range.
The crew watched silently as enemy ships gathered again, this time more cautious. The shadows no longer rushed forward blindly.
They formed tighter formations. They sent scouts ahead.
They learned. But humans learned faster.
Claire noticed changes in their movement. They are adapting, she said. But slowly. They still rely on strength, not thinking. Jack leaned forward.
That is their weakness. They believe power is enough. Emma added, we can use their fear now. They remember the battle. They will hesitate.
The Defender struck again, not with full force but with precision. It attacked supply ships first, then vanished into the dark.
It destroyed communication relays, then disappeared again. Each strike was quick and clean.
The shadows grew nervous. Their fleet slowed. Their commanders argued. Alien worlds watched in disbelief as reports spread. The terror that once moved freely across the galaxy was now stumbling. All because of one human ship. On a distant alien station, leaders gathered in panic. They had lost worlds.
They had lost fleets. Now they were watching humans do what they could not.
One alien leader spoke softly. If humans can do this with one ship, what happens if they send more? The thought terrified them. The shadows finally responded. A massive fleet began to form near a dead star system. This fleet was larger than any before. At its center was a massive command ship, surrounded by heavy guards. It was slow but nearly impossible to destroy. Claire saw it first. Her voice was calm but serious.
Jack, this is their answer. They are preparing one final push. If they break through, the inner human colonies will fall.
Jack closed his eyes briefly, then opened them.
Then we stop them here.
Emma looked at him.
With one ship?
Jack nodded.
Yes, one ship.
But not one idea. The crew gathered.
Jack explained the plan slowly, clearly. They would not fight the fleet head-on.
They would not try to destroy everything. They would target the command ship. If it fell, the rest would collapse. Claire added details. Their command structure is rigid. Without orders, they panic.
Emma smiled.
Then we cut the head off the beast.
The Defender moved toward the dead star system. The Shadow Fleet was already there, filling space with dark shapes. Energy readings were higher than ever. Even the Defender's sensors struggled to track everything. Jack spoke calmly.
Everyone remember your role. Trust each other. We only get one chance.
The shadows detected the Defender almost immediately. Alarms sounded across the enemy fleet.
Ships turned, weapons charging. This time, they did not rush.
They waited. That is new, Emma said quietly.
They are afraid, Claire replied. The Defender moved forward anyway.
The first attack came like a storm. Energy beams crossed space, lighting it up like a broken sky. Jack pushed the ship to its limits. The Defender twisted, rolled, and accelerated in sharp bursts. Shields flared and adjusted automatically. Emma fired carefully, not wildly. Each shot had purpose. Engines failed. Weapon systems shut down. Confusion spread. The shadows tried to surround the Defender, but Jack anticipated their movement. He used debris, dead ships, and even the gravity of the dead star to break their formation. Claire shouted updates.
We are drawing their attention. Command ship is reacting. It is pulling power from escorts.
Jack nodded. Good. That means it is exposed.
The Defender surged forward, straight toward the heart of the fleet. Enemy fire intensified. The ship shook violently. Warning lights flashed. Emma's voice stayed steady. Shields at 60%.
Weapons still online.
Jack clenched his jaw.
Hold together. We are almost there.
The massive command ship filled the screen. It was enormous, covered in armor, glowing with energy.
It fired a beam unlike anything before. The Defender barely avoided it, the edge of the blast ripping across the shields.
Claire gasped.
That hit would have destroyed us!
Jack did not respond. He was fully focused. Emma armed the strongest weapon the Defender carried.
One shot, she said. That is all we have. Jack lined up the ship perfectly, flying straight toward the command ship. Enemy fire tore through space around them. Now, Jack said.
Emma fired. The beam struck the command ship at a weak point Claire had identified earlier. Energy surged. Armor cracked. The ship shuddered. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the command ship began to tear itself apart. Explosions rippled across its surface. Power systems failed. Smaller shadow ships around it froze, unsure what to do. Claire stared at the screen. They lost command. They do not know how to respond. Jack turned the Defender away sharply. That is our signal.
Pull back! The Shadow Fleet fell into chaos. Ships collided. Some fled. Others fired wildly at nothing. The organized terror that once crushed worlds was gone. The Defender escaped the system, damaged but alive. Behind it, the Shadow Fleet collapsed. Across the galaxy!
The news spread fast. The shadows were not unstoppable.
They were not invincible. Humans had proven it.
Jack leaned back exhausted. Emma laughed softly, almost in disbelief.
Claire closed her eyes, letting out a long breath.
We did it, Emma said. They are broken.
Jack nodded slowly. No.
They are finished.
The Defender moved into the dark, carrying the weight of history behind it. One ship had not only fought terror,
it had ended it. The galaxy would never forget what humans had done.
And the shadows never would either. The Defender moved through space slowly, its engines humming softly. The battle was over. The shadows had been defeated, their fleet shattered, their command destroyed. Silence filled the void where terror once roamed. The crew could finally breathe, though exhaustion weighed heavily on each of them. Jack Harper stared out into the stars, watching the faint glow of distant planets. They had done the impossible.
One small human ship had changed the fate of the galaxy. Yet, even in victory, Jack knew their work was not finished.
The galaxy had been terrified for decades, and now it needed reassurance. Claire Morgan sat beside him, eyes scanning sensors.
The shadow survivors are retreating. Most have fled to the outer edges of their territory.
Their communications are scrambled. They will need months, maybe years, to regroup.
Jack nodded.
That gives us time. Time for humans to show the galaxy that they are strong, that they can protect themselves, and that they will fight if pushed.
Emma Brooks checked the weapons one last time. All systems are stable, surprisingly.
Shields took some damage, but we can repair them easily. The ship performed better than anyone imagined.
Jack allowed himself a small smile.
Good. Then we did everything right.
Humans can survive, adapt, and overcome. The crew moved through the Defender, checking every system, repairing what was damaged, and preparing for the journey home. Even though the shadows were defeated, the galaxy was still cautious. Many systems had been lost, entire populations wiped out. The survivors needed reassurance, leadership, and hope. As the Defender traveled, reports began arriving from across human space.
Colonies that had been under threat of destruction sent messages of relief and thanks. People who had hidden in fear for months finally dared to speak, to rebuild, and to hope again. Earth received hundreds of transmissions, all praising the courage of the small human ship and its crew. Back on Alden Prime, survivors looked up at the sky knowing one ship had faced terror alone.
Children pointed to the stars, imagining the brave humans who fought the shadows. Families who had fled their homes returned slowly, hearts full of hope.
Even distant alien worlds began to hear the story. Some were terrified, fearing humanity's strength. Others were grateful, seeing humans as protectors. The shadows, meanwhile, had not vanished completely.
The survivors were scattered, humiliated, and cautious. Their leaders debated what had gone wrong.
Their fleets had been powerful, ruthless, and countless, yet one human ship had destroyed them. Fear now crept into their ranks.
The shadows realized something new. Humans were not weak. Humans were unpredictable, clever, and relentless.
Jack knew this would have a ripple effect.
They will tell other aliens about us, he said quietly.
They will remember, and no one will challenge humans easily after this.
Claire nodded.
We showed them courage, but also intelligence. That is what matters.
They fear us not just for weapons, but for our ability to think, to adapt, to survive. Emma smiled softly. And they underestimated us. That is always the start of a mistake for the enemy.
The journey home was slow.
The Defender had to avoid shadow patrols, repair systems, and navigate through debris from the destroyed fleets. The crew worked tirelessly, sharing small moments of rest, but always staying alert.
They had been through something few humans had ever faced, and each of them knew they were now part of history. As the Defender neared the interhuman colonies, the communications channels opened fully.
Earth and nearby colonies greeted them with cheers, alarms, and messages of relief. Captain Jack Harper's name spread quickly, along with the crew's names.
They were no longer just soldiers or engineers. They were symbols of humanity's strength.
Jack responded calmly. We did what any human would do if faced with this threat. One ship, one chance. That is all it took.
Emma laughed softly.
I think everyone will want to make that one ship a fleet now.
Claire shook her head with a small smile.
One is enough to send the message. They now know humans will fight. That is more important than fleets. As the Defender approached Earth, the planet itself seemed to glow.
Cities, spaceports, and stations were alive with celebration. Humans, who had once been considered small players in the galaxy, were now heroes.
Their courage, strategy, and resilience had proven the impossible. Jack prepared for the landing.
Let's show them what humans can do, even when the odds are against them. Let's show them that one ship can make a difference, and one crew can change the galaxy.
The Defender landed smoothly at Earth Space Command. Crowds had gathered.
Leaders, soldiers, scientists, and civilians all waited to see the crew who had defeated the Shadows. For the first time in centuries, humanity stood not just as survivors but as protectors of the galaxy.
Jack stepped out first, tired but composed. Claire followed, carrying a tablet with all the data collected during the missions. Emma walked behind them, carrying tools but smiling proudly. The crew was greeted with cheers, applause, and even tears. They had faced death and emerged victorious. Laura Bennett, the council chair, approached Jack.
Captain Harper, the galaxy owes you and your crew more than words can say. You have shown what humans can do.
Jack shook his head. It was not just me. It was Claire, Emma, and the whole crew.
And it was all humans everywhere who refused to back down. We only did what anyone would do if their home and people were threatened. The celebration continued for hours. Messages poured in from colonies across human space.
The tale of one ship defeating a terror fleet spread quickly. Even alien civilizations began to send communications.
Some were cautious, but many expressed respect. Humanity's reputation had changed overnight. In the following days, Jack and the crew worked with engineers, commanders, and scientists to share knowledge of the Defender, battle strategies, and the enemy's weaknesses. Plans began to form to strengthen defenses, prepare other ships, and ensure the Shadows could never threaten the inner colonies again. Despite the fame and praise, Jack remained humble.
We fought because we had to, he said to Claire and Emma. We did what no one else could do. That is all. Humans will always fight when forced, but they are not reckless. They are clever, and that is what makes us strong. Claire smiled. The galaxy will remember this.
Not just the victory, but how humans fought. They fought smart, together, and without fear of the unknown.
Emma added. And they underestimated us. That is what made the difference.
Jack looked at the stars, visible even from Earth. This is only the beginning. The Shadows learned their lesson. The galaxy learned ours. Humans are not weak.
Humans are unstoppable when they must be. Across the galaxy, news of the Defender's mission spread.
Systems that had lived in fear for decades now dared to hope. Humans were no longer seen as small, weak, or insignificant.
They were clever, fearless, and unstoppable when defending their own. The Shadows, scattered and defeated, would never forget the name of the human ship that changed the galaxy.
They would spread tales of one small vessel, a single crew, and the courage of humans who fought against impossible odds. Jack, Claire, and Emma stood together on the command deck, looking out at the stars.
We did it,
Claire said softly.
Yes, Jack replied.
One ship, one crew, and humanity's place in the galaxy is clear. We are not to be ignored.
Emma nodded. The galaxy will remember, not for fear, but for respect.
Humans have earned it. Jack turned to them, a quiet smile on his face.
And we will continue to earn it, always. Because humanity never stops. Humanity never gives up.
And when humans fight, even legends can fall. The Defender remained in orbit for some time, a symbol of courage, skill, and determination. People visited, studied, and learned from it. It became more than a ship. It became a message. Humanity would fight for itself and others, and it would always prevail when it had to.
Years later, stories of the battle were told across colonies, schools, and stations. Children learned about the crew who faced the shadows and won. Generals studied the tactics. Scientists marveled at the ingenuity.
Humanity's reputation had changed forever, and the stars were safer because one ship, one crew, and one human determination had dared to face the impossible. Jack, Claire, and Emma knew the truth. It was not the size of the fleet or the number of ships.
It was courage, intelligence, and the will to survive. That was humanity's greatest weapon, and it would never fail. The galaxy had learned a new rule: never underestimate humans. And humanity had learned something too. Even the smallest force, when guided by courage and cleverness, could change the course of history forever.